to the House floor, arguing against the resolution as, quote, the first sound of retreat in the world battle against extremists and terrorists. Congressman Hunter, who is also a presidential candidate, joins me now. I know you just left the House floor to talk with us. Thank you very much, Congressman.
Good to be with you.
I know that you know that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the vote on the resolution will, quote, herald whether the House understands the message the American people are sending about the policies used to implement this war. How important is this debate?
Well, you know, in this debate, friends to our enemies and to our troops. And I think that this is basically signaling the first sound of retreat from the Democrat leadership in the war against terror. These troops are already on the ground. The 82nd Airborne is now in Iraq. They've already entered Baghdad. They're in the 9 sectors. Each sector has an Iraqi force. The Iraqi battalions up front with the Americans and behind them, backing them up. This fight has already started. This is an operation which is underway right now in a shooting war. And we have Democrat leadership back here saying after the operation has started that they don't agree with it. That's not the way to make policy. And can you imagine having an operation like Normandy and while Eisenhower is landing troops on the beaches at Omaha Beach, you have Congress saying that they disapprove of the action.
Doesn't any good military analyst or good military strategist continue to look and assess? This has been almost 5 years that America has been at war. And what the Democrats are saying is we need to step back and say what we've done so far isn't working. Are you suggesting that they somehow don't want America to win this war?
No, I think this is ineptitude. I don't think that it's an intent by the Democrat leadership to somehow do our troops in. But I think that the message that we're sending is sending a message to our enemies, to our friends, and to the troops that we don't support this mission, and I think that's bad. The mission is already underway. If you want to make a policy statement about a war, they had an opportunity to do that. They voted on going into Iraq. They've had votes since on whether we should get out of Iraq. But the idea that you vote against a mission when it's already underway, and even when we have this entire 21,000 troop contingent in Iraq, we're not going to have any more troops than we had last December, a year ago. So this isn't a surge to 200 or 300,000 troops. This is an up or down within the same parameters that we've been following. But beyond that, you got the 82nd Airborne already in Baghdad fighting, and they're voting not to send them. That doesn't make any sense. You got the Big Red One already moving out of Fort Riley, moving one of its brigades to Baghdad to the fight. So the idea that you're already in operations and you've got politicians back here voting not to do something that's already been done can have no good effect. It can only have a bad effect, and that bad effect is to tell the bad guys that America is losing its will to fight this war against terror.
There are, of course, a lot of people, a lot of your colleagues who have gone to the floor already to argue strenuously on the other side. And there was an editorial in the Miami Herald that spoke about you specifically, saying that you mistake robust debate for weakness. And I want to quote what was written in that editorial. For members of Congress to cut and run from a debate on this issue, particularly when a majority of Americans are questioning the wisdom of sending more troops into harm's way, would be a betrayal of constitutional duty. What's your reaction, Congressman?
My reaction is you have lots of debate over the policy of going into the war in the first place. In fact, I held hearings, classified hearings, for every single member of the House, Democrat and Republican, before we went into Iraq, where they got a chance to talk to all of our CIA people and our DIA people, our intelligence people, and go into that first vote informed about whether or not they should vote for or against the president's request to go into Iraq.
With all due respect, Congressman, a lot of people who made that vote and a lot of Americans who supported that vote at the time believe that they were misled, that the information they had that led them to support the decision to go to war was in fact false or fabricated.
I disagree with that. These were good analysts who argued on both sides of the aluminum tubes. They said there's people on both sides of those questions. There were no handlers from the White House. These were intelligence analysts who came down, and I had them stay until every question was answered. My point is, when you're in the middle of a fight, once you've sent the troops in and the troops are operating, you don't retroactively pull the rug out from under them. That's not policy. That's just sending a bad message to our enemies and to our friends alike. And I think if you see statements like the ones coming out of Australia now, about American politicians pulling the rug out from under the operation in Iraq, you will see this American debate is affecting not only our enemies, and you'll see lots of stuff on the websites of the bad guys over the next 2 weeks if the Democrats win this vote, and they'll probably win the vote. So you'll see lots of stuff saying, see, the Americans are pulling out, we've won this battle. You'll also see statements by our allies saying, looks like the Americans are losing heart. So the idea that you have a debate and you make a policy statement and then you pretend that nobody really hears it or cares about it, that's not the way to conduct policy.
Congressman, your position is very much the same as John McCain and Rudy Giuliani, both of whom will be running against you for the Republican presidential nomination, but they have a lot more money and they have higher name recognition. How do you compete?
Well, first, with respect to the war, you just do what you think is right on this war against terror. And one thing I do, and I've instructed my staff, is don't look at polls. And I suspect the other Republicans, especially the ones who are hanging tough with respect to the war against terror, are probably not looking at polls either. We're just trying to do what's right for our country. With respect to all the other issues, and we'll have lots of points of differentiation,